Are you also one of those who have been awestruck by the impeccable journey of Nike over the past years, even surpassing the brands such as Adidas and Under Armour, which are once the only giants in the industry? Well, you aren't alone. But what is more surprising than their rising curves is their business models and strategies. The brand today is the number handle in the sporting goods industry and is the 14th most valuable brand in the world, though they owe their success majorly to the emotional marketing strategy, which is one of the best, if not the best, marketing strategies in the world. But what has turned out to be the ultimate game changer is their outsourcing practices. So why did they do it, and how has it helped them so much? Welcome to this channel for another brand new video about business in sports. Today we will be talking about how Nike used the outsourcing strategy to completely change the dynamics of the footwear industry. So, if you are interested in knowing about everything from how your brand came into being and its journey to the top, make sure to make it to the end of the video. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with the latest content from our channel. With that being said, let's get started. This is how Nike became successful with outsourcing, and this strategy became a game changer. Let me take you back to when Nike was founded in 1964. If you look at the footwear imports today, you will find that just 4% of US footwear was imported. But fast forward 5 decades later, this figure skyrocketed to 98%, and they say Nike has likely played a role in driving it up. Nike, one of the world's biggest retailers of athletic shoes, manufactures a vast majority of its footwear and apparel outside the US. In fact, most of the company's footwear and apparel are manufactured outside of the United States. The company has employed over 73,000 people and operates 1,182 retail stores around the world. And I don't know if this is surprising for you because it is too many that Nike does not have any manufacturing facilities in the United States. It instead has outsourced its work to contracted plants in the Philippines, Vietnam, China, Indonesia, and Taiwan. Nike footwear is manufactured by 500,000 people worldwide. But this strategy has remarkably helped the brand so accumulate into a multinational company which have a market value of more than $130 billion. Thus, Nike used the outsourcing practice to grow exponentially into the world's most extensive athletic footwear and apparel company. In the 1950s and in the early 1960s, only one German company dominated the American shoe market, and they sailed higher and higher as they had no challenging competitors. But one thing that many athletes and their trainers realized was that the company was only interested in products that could sell and not focused on providing shoes that the consumers actually wanted. And as these shoe giant manufacturers dictated the market, no one, even the big companies, wasn't willing to solve the problems faced by athletes. And here is where Nike came in. During his time at the University of Oregon, Phil Knight, the company's CEO, ran for the school's track and field team and came into contact with Bill Bowerman, who was their coach at that time. Apart from being a good coach and a competitive personality, Bill Bowerman had an eye for sportswear, especially shoes. Bowerman was so fascinated with athlete shoes that he would tinker with several brand models with the help of local cobblers, and used to give his special athletes his pair of modified shoes to run with them and tell them how he could improve them further. And meanwhile, while he was at Stanford, in one of his business classes, Knight also wrote a paper theorizing that the production of running shoes should move from its current center in Germany to Japan, where labor was cheaper. Writing this down, he had already become ambitious to actually bring Japanese shoes to the US, and he got obsessed with the idea of selling cheaper shoes but with qualities similar to Adidas and Puma, which were the major sportswear brands at that time. Knight struck an idea to monetize this fascination and, in fact, decided to make his own shoe company. And for this, he asked his coach to join him in this venture. Fortunately, he said yes, and that led to the foundation of Nike's parent company, Blue Ribbon Sports. But let's just rewind a bit. There were a lot of things he needed to deal with: the manufacturing unit, the raw materials, the quality, the branding, the marketing and whatnot. But during his time at Stanford, apart from learning about the cost-effectiveness of Japanese shoes, Phil also learned about the dynamics of the outsourcing strategy. He learned that if there was any way to make money without compromising the quality of the shoes, It was by outsourcing the manufacturing to areas where he could find inexpensive labor. Therefore, Knight realized that nothing could be achieved unless he had a production in Japan. So, he went to Japan as a tourist in his earnest. And despite enjoying the city life, he sought to look for shoe stores. In November 1962, he finally stumbled upon Onitsuka Tiger in the city of Kobe, where he found shoes that matched his outlook for quality and design and liked them so much that he struck a deal with the company to import their shoes to the US. They agreed, and Knight received his first shipment of 12 pairs of Tiger shoes in 1963. But at that time, he had no place to sell them and thus started selling them out of the back of his car at every running track he could drive. But as the sales increased, he realized that he needed more units and, above all, more investment. And that is when he asked his college coach to become a partner in his company. And that was how Blue Ribbon Sports officially became a brand. As a 50-50 partnership, they both invested $500. The initial investment was spent on their first order, in which they bought 300 pairs at around $3.33 each. In their first year, they sold $8,000 worth of shoes, and with that money, they started hiring salesmen for the company. In 1965, their revenue had increased to $20,000, and pretty soon, they opened their very own store in Santa Monica. Knight was dealing with the business side of the operation, while Bill was taking care of the designs and bringing the actual innovation. And it wouldn't be wrong to say that it is this guy who single-handedly brought jogging to America. Phil's outsourcing strategy was working, but as they were rapidly growing, their contractor back in Japan started creating troubles for them. Long story short, Blue Ribbon Sports was forced to manufacture its own shoes in the year 1971, and that is when they decided to rebrand the company to Nike. And here is where once again, the outsourcing came in. Nike surely relied upon outsourcing their shoes, but they outsourced something else too. Phil hired a freelancer and graphic designer from a nearby university and asked him to design a logo for the company. And that was how the famous swoosh was developed. After they got separated Onitsuka Tiger shoes from Japan, they still kept their manufacturing unit outside the US, getting their manufacturing from 300 independent suppliers in 35 countries, including China, Vietnam, and Thailand. The idea was to acquire inexpensive labor and keep the units close to the raw materials, and that worked pretty well. By 2017, the company became the world's largest supplier of athletic shoes and sports apparel and a major manufacturer of sports equipment with revenue of $34.35 billion and 74,000 people employed worldwide. Here is a brief sneak peek into how actually outsourcing became Nike's game-changing strategy. Number 1. Cost cutting. Thanks to its outsourcing model, Nike was able to reduce overhead. Cutting costs by hiring at a lower wage or paying less for plant operations allowed Nike to reinvest the extra profits in other business areas, such as advertising, allowing them to increase the company's potential for growth. And that is why today, Nike has the best in the world marketing gimmicks. Number 2. Competitive advantage. Outsourcing once again proved a valuable resource for Nike in terms of offering its items at more competitive prices. It allowed the company to compete on pricing with other companies that sell similar products. Nike was able to corner the market for its items by reducing competition for the very reason. Number 3. Finances and risk management. Another edge that Nike gets because of outsourcing is in the financial obligations that U.S. tax laws would otherwise impose if they had their units here in the U.S. Furthermore, by outsourcing to subcontractors, Nike assumes less risk associated with the production of its product, such as insurance liability. Nike enjoys about 47% of the market share for shoes, and now, with over 500,000 employees currently working across the globe, Nike has managed to deliver its code of conduct and make production standards despite outsourcing its manufacturing. They keep a strict check over their units and have utilized a strategy of outsourcing and visiting its 800 factories on a weekly basis. Following in the footstep, other giants like Reebok and Adidas have also adopted this outsourcing model and making significant strides. In fact, Reebok has a 100% outsourcing model. But on the flip side of the coin, Converse and New Balance have a market share of 3% each, because their Made in USA tag is a critical part of their sales strategy. They struggle with revenues of $280 million and $260 million, respectively. It is doubtful whether they will be able to sustain themselves in the longer run. Today, there are 1,096 Nike retail stores worldwide, apart from e-commerce and online platforms. They sell their products in 170 countries across the world. Nike currently has a brand value of $34.8 billion. Nevertheless, Nike also had to face some complications when it was time and time again criticized for exploiting foreign workers and providing poor working conditions. In fact, in the 1990s, activists accused the company of using child labor to manufacture soccer balls. But the company took the complaints seriously and has worked to improve its labor practices and reduce its environmental impact. Today, in most of its factories, it has eliminated older steam boiler systems, resulting in 15 to 20% energy savings. Apart from that, Nike also played its part when in 2017, 96% of the waste generated during footwear manufacturing was recycled or converted to energy. Bringing a good name to the company, Nike has started making obvious efforts to ensure decent working conditions and embrace sustainability. This brings us to the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Also, like and share and keep coming back to watch more videos like this.